Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first again, the virtual Skywarn Weather Spotter training session for Southeast Alaska. 2 sessions this month. The first one at 6:30 p.m. Wednesday, next Wednesday, August 26th. And also the second one at 2 p.m. Sunday, August 30th. And you need to go online via GoToMeeting and find or enter the URL weather.gov/AJK for, I believe, Juneau/Skywarn. And you can learn about hazardous weather that could impact your town. And if one so desired, you could maybe become an official trained weather spotter for the Juneau Forecast Office. And that'd be a pretty good chance to improve forecast confidence from what it is now to the high category. Anyway, moving on to the fire danger chart today. Susitna Valley, Matanuska Valley, into the high fire danger zone, all the way up to the north end of the valley there. Also the Copper River Basin, hard to see there, but a narrow strip in the valley there of high to very high fire danger. And a little more expansive area there from roughly Tanana, just west of Fairbanks, along and just south of the Yukon River, then even more expansive area to the west of that. It looks like from the Kobuk and Koyukuk Valley, the eastern Kobuk Valley and the Koyukuk Valley on down toward the Yukon River and a little bit to the south. Also on the west and northwest side of the western Alaska Range, some high fire danger. Also over the upper Yukon Valley or the Yukon Flats area. And Bristol Bay showing up with some areas of high fire danger. And the standout there, the west side of Kodiak Island, had actually an extreme area of fire danger there on the west side. Due to the dry conditions, breezy dry conditions as well. And that's all going to be improving here over the next day, starting tomorrow from west to east, as more moisture, clouds, and rainfall comes in over the interior. Moving on to the hazardous weather graphics, there are no watches, warnings, or advisories out currently for anywhere around the state for the next day or so, but watches, warnings, advisories can pop out at any time without notice, but right now it looks like it'll be pretty good, at least for the next 24 hours. Satellite imagery showing still a lot of clear skies over the interior of the state. You can see the leading edge of some Bering Sea moisture pushing into the Kuskokwim Valley and extending back up toward the Bering Strait. That all associated with low pressure and southwest flow that's farther back to the west. Several surges of moisture rolling in, one just the mid and high level clouds coming the farthest east there into the Kuskokwim Valley. Then the second one has a little bit of moisture with it along the southwest coast with light rainfall amounts there. And then the second surge coming across the Pribilofs there from St. Matthew Island, extending down to the east central Aleutians. Otherwise, is another mostly sunny day for Kodiak Island, some variable high clouds there. Same thing for south central Alaska. And the sunshine resulted in temperatures back into the mid to upper 70s this afternoon for the Susitna Matanuska Valley area, as well as the Kenai Peninsula, greater Anchorage area, 76 degrees at Campbell Creek Science Center, for example, and also up at the Big Lake area, Talkeetna, Willow, well into the mid 70s. Same thing for the Copper River Basin today, mostly sunny, with temperatures in the mid-70s there as well. And then you pick up the clouds on the eastern North Gulf Coast with rainfall amounts on the light side today. There was heaviest amounts were over the southeast and southern part of the Panhandle. Let's see, with Ketchikan picked up 1/4 of an inch in the last 12 hours, as did Petersburg. But lighter amounts elsewhere. In some areas, didn't see anything at all. In fact, it looked like some sunshine there along the central coast and maybe the inside water areas. Also, sunshine on the western Arctic coast up there with some clouds kind of moving from southeast to northwest. Those are higher clouds, but it's good VFR. And then you pick up the low clouds and fog on the central and eastern coast, but the eastern north slope looking really good right down into the upper Yukon Valley areas. And also some fairly significant break pushing into the western Aleutians there across Kiska and Amchitka, just Adak right on the edge of the sunshine. And on the chart today, there's that front weakening as it moves, pushes onto the coast, pushing some light rainfall amounts with it there. With Cape Newfoundland picked up about 0.08 of an inch, with winds gusting out of the south to about 28 miles per hour. And then Teller had roughly 0.05 of an inch, and elsewhere, those are the two heavier rainfall amounts, give or take, with that front so far, and that trails back across the eastern Aleutians. Few showers into the Pribilof Island, St. Lawrence Island had some light precipitation, and a couple isolated lightning strikes over the western Alaska Range, nothing widespread at all. Just mostly sunny again over the interior with warm temperatures and fairly light winds. Some showers with the clouds over the eastern interior, kind of on the increase there, some afternoon showers, and any one of the taller clouds could develop into an isolated thunderstorm here late afternoon, early this evening, but won't amount to too much. And then the rain and fog over the southern southeast coast. Looking at the forecast for tonight, that front washes out. Good southwest flow coming across the Bering, actually westerly over the western Bering Sea, turns southwest and pushes surges of moisture from the eastern Bering onshore and then inland. You can see that first trough bringing increasing chances of rain, first increasing clouds. Cook Inlet tonight, increasing clouds. Main rain threat will be along the Alaska Range into the Kuskokwim Valley. Areas of light rain and showers will cover just about all of the southwest quarter of the state. And that'll even be on the increase up over the Tanana, Upper Yukon Valley areas. Back to the west, should stay dry over the will stay dry over the Copper River Basin, as well as the Upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country down to the North Gulf Coast, partly to mostly cloudy skies. And the Panhandle still looking at a chance of rain. That system really moving slow, and so light rain periods will continue there with just a risk of a shower up to the north. And Sitka, Port Alexander, Elfin Cove to Yakutat, dry, but low clouds and fog will be right along the coastline and offshore. That same pattern also for the Aleutians, Bristol Bay, southern Bering Sea, considerable low clouds and fog occurring there with the westerly breezes. And for the eastern Arctic coast, low clouds and fog up there as well tonight and tomorrow. And for Sunday, you can see definitely cloudier with pretty good widespread area of light precipitation occurring from the Kenai Peninsula. Even Kodiak Island will have a few passing showers. Nothing significant though, but it'll be definitely cloudier with a risk of a shower for the island tomorrow. And Cook Inlet, same thing, chance of rain, Kenai Peninsula. Mostly sunny, temperatures back up near 70, eastern Copper River Basin into the eastern interior areas. Chance of thunderstorms for the Wrangell Mountains. On northward, eastern Alaska Range to Eagle, I should say isolated to widely scattered at most as far as thunderstorms go. But rainfall along the trough there from the 1,007 millibar low to the 1,010 millibar low over the Kuskokwim Valley. Pretty good chance of some light rain there with showers into the northern Bristol Bay area, showers along the west coast, and light rain, fog, and showers for St. Lawrence Island. And then the outlook for Monday, much the same. Chance of moisture over the Panhandle. Low pressure keeps the North Gulf Coast wet, and look for occasional showers and rain. Isolated thunderstorms for the Talkeetnas, and scattered across the remainder of the interior. Best chance of rainfall will be over the west and southwest part of the state. It'll be more scattered and intermittent up to the north, and the eastern Arctic coast will stay dry, and the Bering Sea will be unsettled, and the Aleutians stay fair with light winds, low clouds, and fog. Lows for tonight in the 40s over much of the northern half of the state. Lower 50s, lower to mid 50s, southern Alaska and the Panhandle, and out over the Bering Sea, upper 40s for your lows, including St. Lawrence Island, Seward Peninsula. Highs tomorrow Still pushing nearer into the lower 70s for the upper Yukon Valley down toward Eagle. High 72 forecast there, Northway and Tok. Near 70 in the Copper River Basin east side. Otherwise in the 60s, south central Alaska, mid 60s Kodiak Island, and lower 60s for the southeast coast. 50s for the Alaska Peninsula, Aleutians, and the Bering Sea, and near 50 along the Arctic coast. But the east side there, eastern north slope could be into the lower 60s, lower to mid 60s. Lows Monday morning, lower 40s along the Arctic coast to the Brooks Range, otherwise in the 40s to lower 50s over the remainder of the state, including the southeast coast. And the highs Monday afternoon continue a downward trend, keep it in the upper 60s over the upper Yukon Valley, mid 60s Tanana Valley, upper 50s to lower 60s, Panhandle, mid 60s for south central Alaska.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to the first flying weather graphic for Sunday morning. IFR right along or just off the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast. VFR across the North Slope Brooks Range into the central interior down to the Alaska Range and the lower Yukon River Valley area. Then you pick up marginal VFR on out to the Yukon Delta. Some IFR in across Bristol Bay up the eastern Kuskokwim Valley to the Alaska Range and portion of Iliamna Lake, marginal VFR, all the way up to Windy Pass, but staying VFR, Central Copper River Basin, through Cook Inlet in the Susitna Valley, but IFR, Western Prince William Sound and Northern Prince William Sound, and a good portion of the Panhandle, and IFR scattered across the Bering Sea and Aleutians with marginal VFR mixed in. Afternoon, IFR just south of the Pribilofs in the Bering Sea there, right off the southwest coast, down across just about all of the Aleutians with the exception of Unalaska Island. Alaska Peninsula looks VFR, marginal for Bristol Bay, marginal just about all the southwest interior, Seward Peninsula, southern slopes of the central and western Brooks Range, some IFR for St. Lawrence Island on up to Teller, Wales, Tin City, those areas, and looks VFR for the afternoon for Cook Inlet generally into the southern Susitna Valley, marginal VFR up toward the central Alaska Range, and IFR from roughly Cordova eastward to right along the southeast coast. VFR for Kodiak Island, and then by Monday morning, southern Kodiak Island picks up some marginal VFR, IFR for the roughly about, say, False Pass, maybe King Cove, westward across all the Aleutians in the IFR zone, and much of the Bering Sea marginal, Pribilof Island and southwest coast marginal VFR, but Togiak Bay into the Auckland Mountains, and while all of Bristol Bay, IFR, and a band of IFR right up along the Alaska Range. Another one there from St. Lawrence Island through the Bering Strait, western Arctic coast, and all of the Panhandle and North Gulf Coast, or the central and eastern North Gulf Coast in the IFR zone for the afternoon. That holds northern Prince William Sound along the coast range, some IFR down across Yakutat, roughly down to about Sitka on the Panhandle, and then inland across Lincoln Glacier Bay down to maybe as far south as Petersburg, otherwise marginal VFR for the remainder of the southeast coast, and areas of marginal VFR mixed in with VFR for the interior and IFR, central and western Aleutians, as well as the southwest Bering Sea. And Anatuvik VFR becoming marginal tomorrow, and a downward trend for Adigan as well, starting out pretty good and then becoming marginal VFR later on. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR at times throughout the entire day Sunday on either entrance. Rainy, marginal. Windy, VFR becoming marginal. Isabel, though, another VFR day coming up. Same thing from Matasta, another VFR day for tomorrow. And Tanita, VFR becoming marginal VFR. And Portage, marginal. Chilkoot and White, IFR, then becoming marginal VFR in the afternoon. Freezing levels, 6 to 12,000 feet there over the eastern Bering Sea across eastern Aleutian areas, but pretty slack gradient over the central and eastern part of the state, about 8,000 feet over the Panhandle. Icing, moisture getting into the interior now, so areas of isolated moderate rime icing from the St. Lawrence Island area across much of the interior and also over the southeast coast, with pretty much icing free north of the Brooks Range to the Arctic coast as well as out west. And the jet stream, good southwest flow with the upper level low there back over the Russian coast area. And again, southwest flow 90 to 110 knots aimed right at the southwest coast. But this flow splits, continues to split there, but the entire pattern shifting eastward. And so that split will be moving eastward, and that'll pull more and more moisture into the interior. 9,000 feet. Southerlies not all that strong, 40 knots south of the eastern Aleutians, turning south 20 to 30, say, through the Bering Strait. And at 3,000 feet, again, that low over Russia there, southwest flow over the southern Bering Sea turns southerly, takes a turn to the north there as you head eastward to about 170 west. And high pressure over the northern interior, weak low just off south of the Kenai Peninsula, but really light winds over the interior. Light to isolated moderate chop for the Aleutians below 6,000 feet.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider, joined again by Eric Stevens from the GINA, or Geographic Information Network of Alaska at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Thanks for joining us again, Eric.
Glad to be here.
Thanks. We are talking about satellites today, and what are satellites? And the easy way to talk about that would be to introduce our friend the globe here, which is a round spheroid type shape. We haven't been on a flat Earth as far as history is known for several hundred years now, and because of that we also know that we are orbiting around other objects in space, and that objects are orbiting around the Earth as well. We call all those things satellites in some form or fashion, right, Eric?
Right. Well, this leads to the discussion of Johannes Kepler's research 400 years ago. Did some of the early work and founded the 3 laws of planetary motion, which are important to planets and also to weather satellites.
Okay.
Kepler's first law talks about how the orbit of an object around another object is an ellipse, not necessarily a circle.
Kind of a flattened circle?
Yeah, depending on how flat
squished
it could be.
Okay.
For our purposes, we'll just say they're mostly circular.
Okay.
The second law is most important for us, though, and that is the closer an object is to the thing it's orbiting, the faster it goes. So in the solar system, the planet Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. It orbits the sun in 88 days. It moves at 100,000 kilometers an hour.
It's a lot different than Earth.
Moving.
Okay.
Right. And further out from the Earth is Jupiter, and it moves at only 1/4 the speed of Mercury, and it has to go further, so it takes 12 of our years for Jupiter to make one lap. The further out you are, the slower you go.
Okay.
So we're talking about planets. What does it have to do with weather satellites? Turns out Kepler's laws apply to planets orbiting the sun. They also apply to satellites orbiting the Earth.
Okay.
You know, our natural satellite is the moon. There's the famous Apollo 8 Earthrise shot.
Beautiful shot.
Oh, yeah, you could just talk about that forever. December 1968, the moon is about 250,000 miles away from the Earth.
Okay.
It takes a month to go around the Earth. It's that far out, it takes a full month to do an orbit. Another shot here of the International Space Station. Instead of being 250,000 miles out, the ISS is only 250 miles out. It's really close. And so it doesn't take a full month for the space station to go around the Earth. It only takes 90 minutes. It's so close, it just whips right around 90 minutes.
Okay.
So weather satellites, there are a number of weather satellites, and there are a number of orbits. The further out you have the satellite, the longer it takes to go around the Earth. And this is important because different satellites have different purposes. So we have a satellite here. This little salt shaker lid will serve as our satellite going around the Earth. Let's say you have a satellite that's 22,000 miles above the Earth. This is kind of a magical spot because at that distance, it takes a full day for the satellite to go around the Earth. Imagine if you put your satellite 22,000 miles up from the equator and had it go with the Earth as the Earth spun.
At the same speed.
Right.
Okay.
The satellite goes around the Earth just as fast as the Earth itself is turning. In effect, the satellite will hover in one spot.
I see.
And it appears when you make a movie loop of picture after picture after picture, you can replay that and you get these movie loops. Geostationary satellites, these are called. These are stationary in appearance. And they provide a constant frame of reference. We've got an example here. Another nice thing about these satellites, since they're that far out at 22,000 miles, you can see from pole to pole, which is nice. So they're pretty broad view and a constant frame of reference.
So those are the pictures. If you're watching a weather satellite loop on TV, your favorite weather show, that's the picture that you're going to see is one that's sitting over the same spot.
If you're seeing a movie loop play again and again, that came from geostationary satellites. That's the only way you can do that.
Yeah.
The bummer, though, for us in Alaska is we're up on the very top of the planet. And for geostationary satellites to work, they have to be over the equator. So for the geostationary bird to view Alaska, it's kind of like reading a book, but you're reading it edge on like that.
Right.
So there's another kind of orbit called the polar orbit,
Okay.
which is nice. We're near the pole.
Yeah.
And here's a satellite. Those polar orbiters are much closer to the Earth, getting down toward International Space Station elevation. And they're not in the equatorial plane. Rather, their orbital plane is inclined like this. And the Earth turns under that satellite as the satellite orbits. The nice thing about that is for Alaska, the satellite will go right over Alaska a few times a day. And so you get a much closer image. We've got a shot from the Sumi NPP satellite. Specifically, it's a true color image from the VIRS sensor. That's an acronym there.
Okay.
But it's a beautiful shot of Alaska, and you can see so much detail, the kind of detail because you're close in.
Very high resolution.
You couldn't get this kind of view from geostationary satellites. The advantage of these polar orbiters is nice close imagery. You can see a lot of detail. The disadvantage, though, is that the satellite flies by, and then you have to wait a while to get the next image. And if geostationary weaknesses are that you're reading the page like that, the polar orbiter, you're reading the page straight on, but it's so close, and then it zips by, and you have to wait for the satellite to come around the Earth again. So there's no one perfect solution. Different satellites for different orbits, each has their strength, and amazingly, it all comes back to Johannes Kepler and his laws of planetary motion, the same laws that govern how the planets orbit the sun. They govern how the satellites orbit the Earth, and even our little pretend salt shaker right here.
Right, okay. Well, since the 1957 Sputnik, we've been putting man-made objects into orbit around the Earth and starting to get pictures back. Who knows what will happen in the next 50 to 100 years. Amazing
it's
stuff.
It's a growing science, and the future is bright.
Thank you so much for joining us again, Eric. And for more information on Dehne and what the satellite systems do there and what Eric's been talking about today, you can go to the web address on your screen. For Alaska Weather Facts, I'm meteorologist Dave Snider.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at the CS analysis completed 22nd of August, today Saturday. Not a lot of change from yesterday. A fair distance off the coast now, and open Wrangell Island, of course, and outlook for the next 4 or 5 days. Not a lot of change, movement in the main ice field there as we start to approach the minimum extent of the ice edge. I believe comes up, well, about a month away when that happens. So still got another month to go. Anyway, coastal water forecast for the Panhandle on the south coast. West winds 10 to 15 knots with 5-foot seas. South to southeast breeze at 10. On the north coast, south winds light for Lynn Canal, 10 knots, seas 2 feet. And central and southern inside waters, call it variable to south at 5 knots or no wind, just about with pretty slight seas. And for the Panhandle for the inside waters, on Monday, all winds south 10 knots, Clarence Strait, Stevens Passage, Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, basically southerly direction at 10 knots with 2 to 3 foot seas, and west-southwest breeze at 10 knots on the south coast with 4 foot seas, and southerlies at 10 knots on the north coast with 4 foot seas. Prince William Sound, east winds at 10 knots with 2 foot seas for the forecast tomorrow, and Cook Inlet, south of the Forelands, southerlies at 20 knots, 6 foot seas. Northern Cook Inlet, south winds 15 knots with 5 foot seas. Otherwise, light winds for Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands, both southeast at 10 knots, 3 to 4 foot seas there. Western North Gulf Coast, light winds south at 10, 3 foot seas. Southeast, 15 knots for the Middleton Island area with 3 foot seas. And for Monday, northeast breeze at 15 knots for Prince William Sound, and south to southwest, 10 to 15 knots for Cook Inlet. Westerly winds 20 knots in a stretch there from Kamishak Bay across the Barren Islands and the western North Gulf Coast, with seas running 5 to as high as 7 feet. And the eastern North Gulf Coast, southeast winds 20 knots. Kodiak Island tomorrow, southwest winds at 15, 4 to 5 foot seas. The Alaska Peninsula, west-southwest 15 to 20 knots. Probably the 20 knots will be on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. Seas will run 4 to 5 feet there. And for Bristol Bay, west winds at 15 knots. No change for Bristol Bay on Monday. West winds 15 knots. West winds also 15 knots for the Alaska Peninsula with 5-foot seas. And Kodiak Island, west wind 20 knots with 5 to 6 foot seas. For the eastern Aleutians tomorrow, west-southwest 15 to 20 knots with 5 to 6 foot seas. And the central Aleutians, Adak and Atka, southwest 15 to 20. Southwest 20 knots for Amchitka Island. And for the area from Kiska to Shemya, look for westerlies at 20 knots with 8-foot seas. Moving on to Monday, west-southwest winds at 20 knots for the western Aleutians. The central and eastern Aleutians, not too bad. Westerly winds 10 to mostly 15 knots with 4 to 5 foot seas. And for the southwest coast, tomorrow, Sunday, southwest wind 15, 4 to 5 foot seas, 20 knot winds from the southwest for St. Matthew Island and the Pribilofs with 6 foot seas. St. Lawrence Island, southerlies at 15, southwest 15 for Norton Sound. For Monday, southwest 15 for St. Lawrence Island, southwest 15 along the southwest coast with 5 foot seas. The Pribilof, St. Matthew Island, winds southwest 20 knots with 6 foot seas. And Norton Sound, southwest also 15 knots with 3 foot seas. For the central Beaufort Sea coast, we'll look at east winds tomorrow at about 15 knots, and those will pick up to 20 knots over toward Demarcation Point on the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline with 4 foot seas. Western Arctic coast down to Cape Thompson, winds will be east at 15 knots. Cape Thompson to Wales, light south winds at 10. And for Monday, southeast winds 10 knots, Wales to Cape Beaufort. And for the western Arctic coast, light west breeze at 10, and kind of a variable wind pattern for the central and east side, becoming a little more uniform west at 10 knots over toward Demarcation Point. For tonight, again, southwest flow progressing eastward and inland across the state, bringing cloudier, damper conditions with several surges of moisture coming in off the Bering Sea. The first one bringing rain into the Kuskokwim Valley, increasing clouds south central Alaska. Showers continue over the Panhandle, mainly south. And for Sunday, cooler and wetter, central and western interior, a little slower. See the most sun over the east side tomorrow, and still showers in the Panhandle. And for Monday, pretty damp over southern and western Alaska, a little drier in the northeast, but still damp over the Panhandle, and also over the central Bering Sea. Thank you for joining.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.